the part of Venice that I actually kind of don't own, and where it's like there's the waterfront Venice, and then there's the non-waterfront Venice. The part that I actually don't own was kind of the part that is, well, like, you know, kind of. I mean, I still had to put in a sewer system. Ugh. Uh, the thing was that the waterfront. Nobody liked the waterfront. Nobody liked the water. The water was nasty. It was disgusting. People just poured their buckets into the stream. So the whole place just like, and the opium people didn't mind because they're always like, yeah, and so they didn't mind living on the waterfront, but nobody lived there. They had to fish outside, outside the channel, and nobody lived there around the water. And I owned the water part anyway. And Rasputin was like, you know, and being all annoying and like, I need more money for repairs. He was like, I need more money for repairs. You know, to my council people. My council people would give him more money for repairs, a nice little allowance. But there was no repairs going on. The city was just, you know, and finally a building collapsed. The building actually just collapsed from decay because nobody had been taking care of it ever in like 50 or 80 years. So when that happened, there's an investigation, of course, as to why the building collapsed, because they also killed some children or whatever. And they did the investigation. Rasputin was like, oh, and actually killed the investigator. Like, and then hand wrote. Actually, get this, it's true. And then Rasputin hand wrote a thing, but didn't spell it very well, as if he was the investigator writing his report, and then mailed it in or sent it in. And my people at the place were like, what the, you know, and so anyway, it's a really good story actually how Rasputin was in Venice. And it wasn't even spelled right. It wasn't signed right, or it didn't use he kind of used the seal or whatever. It had the seal though, or something like that. It was weird. Anyway, you have to look up the story to actually get it. Anyway, though, but basically he killed the investigator, and then because he didn't want he was getting the repair money for Venice, so, and getting money and allowance from Venice to repair the city, but he wasn't doing any repairs. He was just spending on opium. So anyway. So there's an investigation, and then he kills the investigator, or kills the investigator and his assistant, or he kills some people, basically. And so there's another investigation into the death of the other one. And they're in there, and there's like two teams. They're like, well, we're investigating the death of the investigator. And somebody asked them, are you here about the building that collapsed? And they're actually, no, we're actually here about the death of the investigator. But what about what building? And so they start looking at the building, and then they realize that you know, and they hear about this drug den. So you go take a look, and they threaten them not too nicely. And I like, yeah, he just tries threatening him or something like that. He's like, get out of here, or something like that. You have to look up it's a good story. Anyway, though, so then they come back with guns, and they grab everyone, pull everyone out, and get Rasputin or whatever. And I think he had guns or something. They did have weapons at some point in time. But anyway, and there's a gun battle at some point, and it's really funny actually. Anyway, though, basically Rasputin or his people get killed, or some of his people get killed, and Rasputin gets away or something like that. But it's hard to tell. He's just a guy with a beard, and basically he has like throw up in his beard and stuff. Like you'd know Rasputin if you saw he has like throw up in his beard. You know, and they would all have beards actually, and they just walk around like this, smelling like shit, and like they never took a shower. They just poured it out the window if they did at all. Sometimes they just shit in their pants, and they just walk around. There'd be like food bits stuck in their beard and stuff, and like they described me to him, and like missing teeth and stuff. I was like, oh my. Yeah, get him out of there. He's not taking care of my town. And so they got rid of him, and they got some real engineers in there, and we started fixing it up and stuff. And I think he spent the rest of his life locked up or dead. He eventually goes after the Romanov or something, or blames them. I don't know. I mean, there's like 50 crazy Rasputins running around. They're like druggies and stuff. And I was trying to ignore them. But anyway, they ended up becoming a problem. So anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yes. So anyway, so the only way to clean up the waterfront basically is by putting in this really expensive sewer system where we actually have to pump the sewage because it's already in the ocean. We have to pump it out to the ocean or pump it somewhere. So we're putting in. So I'm putting it. So I'm like, all right, and no one wanted to live there anyway. It turns out that they're either fishermen or they're people taking freight off from the ships, and they actually have to use nose pins the whole time when they're handling the freight because it smells so bad. And so like I'm serious, they have nose pins, and that's what Rasputin did. Rasputin's repairs were nose pins. He got some nose pins from China for the workers, so they wouldn't complain about the smell. That's what Rasputin did. That was his big expenditure. He spent like $30 or something for some nose plugs from China, and that's all he did was buy nose plugs. So anyway, so you can see, so anyway, and they're like hair. He calls them nose plugs, but they're actually like hairpins, actually, that for hanging clothes and stuff. Anyway, so, and he's like, I did so much for that town. And he actually tries to do it legally or whatever. Anyway, so and he actually ended up owning everything for a minute. And then we were like, no, you don't. Into the ground. And so we take because he somehow gets the money from something. Anyway, So we build this complicated sewage system that features all the buildings and the ones that don't have sewage, they have a toilet somewhere. It's a really expensive thing because we have to go down in there and fit this thing. It's all cast iron or something like that, or clay pipe or something, so it won't leak. And then it has to be pumped out, and it's this hugely expensive, like $300 million. Well, back then, equivalently $300 million project. And while I'm doing that, I'm like, okay, well, let's go ahead and do the one for the other city as well because it needs one too. So, I was doing one for one, and I ended up doing the other one, and it's just like, ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. It'll pay off someday. But there's some other shops that they're actually making a lot of money, where we're just spending a lot of money on everything. But anyway though, war, death, destruction, Rasputin, me going, I am Lucifer! Basically down on him, pretty much. Probably after he killed the Romanovs or something like that. But basically I was like, I am Lucifer! Lucifer Star. And basically ordered his death and put $1,000. I put the most highest reward ever on that man's life. Like 1,000 for Rasputin, 1,000 gold, payable if it is proven that it is him or not. I was very open about it. I was like, I don't even care if you think it's him. Kill him anyway. There's even a shred of a possibility that it's Rasputin. You just shoot him. So anyway, eventually we get him and we declare war on Rasputin and Rasputin's kind. And there's actually like 50 of them. So we go around plucking them up because he's that bad of a problem. And we eventually get it all, and then we start the work, and it's this huge long process. And we have all kinds of photos for that. And it's really cool. And the city ends up looking very nice and very beautiful and is very profitable because it's always been a profitable city. And Rasputin was like, oh, it's losing money, it's losing money. It wasn't really. It was making money like crazy, and the tourists love Venice. When we get cleaned up, it's like, ka-ching! You're rich. Like, I am? Cool. Yeah, it's like ka-ching because he was paying for drugs for everyone and this and that and living life of a big shot. And there's like little cartoons of him going through the thing, and there's like shit floating next to him because they were just throwing it out the window. Anyway, and supposedly he was supposed to be putting in a sewer system or putting in something, and his sewer system was a bucket or something like that, and that's what he provided or something. He was spending money. He was like, I'm just doing repairs. A bucket is not a repair. Anyway, and the whole world's like, wow, because the microscope goes down on Venice because of me. And they see all these problems, and they clean up the city, and it's this huge, long, wide thing. And there's police. We basically, it takes an. They said it took an army to clean and fix Venice, and it did. It was like almost $1 billion, equivalently probably like $1 billion, or something was spent or close to it. I mean, it was a lot of money, a lot. 300 million somewhere, and 600 something. Anyway, yeah. Good story, though. Rasputin and Venice.